Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're tackling something pretty cool called Bert. And no, not the Sesame Street Muppet. This Bert is all about language and how computers are learning to understand us in a whole new way.
Yeah, it was a really big deal back in 2018.
We're going to unpack why this research paper, all the way back from 2018, had everyone in the natural language processing world buzzing.
Oh, yeah, everyone was talking about it.
Because trust me, this isn't just about computers spitting back words. It's about them actually getting what we mean.
Exactly. Like, imagine trying to follow a conversation where someone's only catching every other word. You'd be so lost. That's kind of how language models were working before BERT.
Right.
This paper showed how to make them bidirectional, which sounds technical, but it basically means they can understand a word by looking at all the words around it, just like you do when you're reading.
Right. It's like you wouldn't get a joke if you only heard the punchline, would you? You need the whole setup, the context, to really understand what's going on. And that's what BERT brings to the table for computers.
Yeah, it changed everything.
Now, the research paper dives into how they achieve this, and it boils down to two pretty clever training methods: masked LM and next sentence prediction.
And those two methods were game changers, particularly the masked LM. It's like playing a giant game of fill in the blanks with BERT.
Okay.
We hide a word in a sentence and see if it can figure out what's missing based on the words around it.
So it's like BERT's constantly solving linguistic puzzles, forcing it to think deeply about how words relate to each other.
Exactly. And the next sentence prediction training takes things a step further.
Yeah.
It's like we're testing BERT's ability to see the bigger picture. We show it two sentences and ask, hey, do these naturally go together? This helps BERT understand how different sentences connect to form a coherent thought or argument.
It's like teaching a computer to understand the flow of a conversation, right? Instead of just focusing on individual words or sentences, BERT is learning to connect the dots and grasp the overall meaning. Pretty mind-blowing. But now, the real test. How does all this training actually play out in the real world? Well, the paper highlights BERT's performance on something called the GLUE benchmark.
Think of the GLU benchmark as a decathlon for language models. It tests a whole range of linguistic skills, kind of like testing how well someone understands grammar, vocabulary, even humor.
Huh, interesting.
And BERT, well, it blew the competition out of the water.
Wow.
Really did.
It wasn't even close. We're talking about a massive leap forward in performance. But what really got people excited was how BERT performed on something called the SQUAD dataset. Have you heard of this one?
Oh, yeah. The SQUAD, or Stanford Question Answering Dataset, is basically a massive reading comprehension test for AI. They feed BERT a ton of text and ask it complex questions, the kind where you really need to understand the nuances of language to answer correctly.
And get this, BERT didn't just pass this test, it aced it. In some cases, it even outperformed human experts, which is a pretty good sign that we're dealing with something truly groundbreaking here. I mean, acing a test is one thing, but what really struck me is what this means practically. You know, the paper talks about how BERT can do amazingly well even with smaller data sets.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Absolutely. Think about specialized fields, maybe like cutting-edge medical research or rare historical texts, or even niche areas of engineering. These are areas where we don't always have tons of data to throw at an AI.
Right.
BERT's ability to learn quickly and efficiently from limited information, that's a game changer for all sorts of fields.
Yeah, it's like BERT comes pre-equipped with some serious street smarts ready to learn on the fly. Which I gotta say gets my brain buzzing with the possibilities. But let's bring it back to you, dear listener. Why should you care about a computer program that's basically a whiz at linguistic gymnastics?
Well, think about it this way. BERT isn't just some isolated experiment in a lab somewhere. It's already out in the wild, quietly powering a lot of the tools and technologies you use every single day.
Right. Remember that search engine query that actually made sense?
Exactly.
Or maybe a chatbot that felt almost human. There's a good chance BERT was working its magic behind the scenes.
Exactly. And this is just the beginning. As AI continues to evolve, we can expect even more applications of this technology, making our lives easier, more efficient, and hopefully a lot more interesting.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, interesting.
Yeah.
But as much as I love a good technological leap forward, we've got to acknowledge that BERT isn't the be-all and end-all of AI. The field is constantly moving, pushing boundaries.
And that's what makes it so exciting. Who knows what incredible breakthroughs are just around the corner?
It really does feel that way, doesn't it? Like we're on the verge of something huge.
We are, but with that comes, a responsibility, I think.
Oh, okay.
To think about how we develop and use all this new tech ethically,
So you're saying it's not just about, like, making our lives easier or our searches more accurate, there's a bigger picture here.
Absolutely. As these models get more sophisticated, we need to think critically about, their impact on society, make sure we're using them for good.
Yeah, for good.
Powerful tools,
Right.
require careful consideration.
Okay, now you've got me thinking. And I bet our listeners are right there with us. This deep dive has been, wow, quite a journey, hasn't it? We've gone from deciphering Bert's clever training methods to uncovering its actual real world superpowers.
It has been quite a ride, yeah.
And you know what I find so exciting? Bert's story is just one chapter in the never ending saga of AI, right? Who knows what incredible advancements are right around the corner? It's like we're living in a science fiction novel, except it's actually happening.
I know, it's really cool.
And that wraps up our deep dive on Bert. We hope you've enjoyed this journey into the world of cutting-edge language models and that you're walking away with not just a head full of fascinating facts, but also, hopefully, a sense of wonder about the future.
The future is bright.
It really is. And hey, the conversation doesn't stop here, right? What are your thoughts on Bert and the future of AI? Have you encountered Bert in your own digital adventures? We'd love to hear your insights, your questions, and any aha moments you've had along the way. Until next time, keep those minds curious, and remember, the future of language is closer than you think.